Hey, everybody. Welcome to Adapter Parish, episode 95, Planet of the Apes. If what you have been waiting for is for us to just get back to discussing Charlton Heston, congratulations. This episode's for you, and we hope it's been worth the wait. But before we blast off, let's talk about our next episode. Everybody, this is one that folks have been asking for kind of for a long time now, and we are finally going to deliver. So a few of you who are going to be excited about this. In 2 weeks, we'll be taking a close look at Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca. We'll be talking about the 1938 novel, the 1940 Alfred Hitchcock movie starring Joan Fontaine and Laurence Olivier, the 1979 miniseries with Joanna David and Jeremy Brett, the 1997 miniseries with Amelia Fox and Charles Dance, and 2020's movie starring Lily James and Armie Hammer. So much intrigue, so very, very much intrigue. That's in 2 weeks on Tuesday, July 13th. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections about today's episode or any others that you'd like to hear on the show, remember to email adapterparishcast@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, we'd love it if you would share that with the world by leaving a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. We're also on Patreon at patreon.com/adaptcast. We've got a patron-only community and our bi-weekly bonus show, Adapter Parish Plus, with episodes releasing every Tuesday between episodes of this show. We hope you check it out. Show notes from this and all other episodes can be found at adapterparishcast.com. And with that, on with the show, Adapter Parish, episode 95, Planet of the Apes. Hello and welcome to Adapter Parish, a podcast about adaptation. I'm Jeremy Latour.
And I'm Ari Lipshaw, and today we are going to be talking about Planet of the Apes.
I was excited about this one. What was your experience of Planet of the Apes before a month ago?
That Simpsons episode?
Oh, that Simpsons episode? A fish called Selma?
Yes,
That famous Simpsons episode?
I hate every ape I see, from chimpanzee to chimpanzee.
It's great.
I'm going to sing some more of it as
He can
the
talk.
episode. He can talk.
He can talk.
I can sing.
I saw Planet of the Apes a really long time ago. The original.
Mhm.
That was my thing. I never read the book. For me, it was like this really cool movie. I think my dad showed it to me or something like that. And then I was like, oh, there's all these other movies. And I watched all of the other movies. I got really into it. It was like my first experience with super dour 70s sci-fi that where everything has a sad ending.
Yeah.
Like everything.
Had you read the book, though?
Never once. Didn't know the book was French. And
Yeah.
then I read it. And how
It's very French.
It is so French.
So French. I mean, let me set the stage.
Are you setting the stage for the book?
Yeah, for the book.
Can I do one thing really quickly?
Yes.
Can I just let everyone know, here's what we're talking about. We're talking about this original book, La Planète des Singes, from 1963. We are talking about the 1968 movie, Planet of the Apes, and we're talking about the 2001 remake, the Marky Mark version.
Yeah.
There's a lot that, I want to get into the sequels a little bit. We're not talking about the, new trilogy, which I'll mention them, but we didn't watch them for this.
Yeah.
We're just talking about adaptations of the original novel, which is basically just those two movies. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows what our guardrails are before we get into it.
I knew singe was French for monkey or ape because in high school I took AP French literature and we read Voltaire's Candide in the original French. And there's a scene where there are monkeys chasing women and biting them on their butts. And so it was les singes biting on les cuisses.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember reading that in class and everybody going is that right? Monkeys biting their butts? And our teacher was like, maybe. Yeah.
Bien sûr. You had a stage to set though.
So picture this. So I'm just going to give the very basic premise. Apes have taken over a planet. We have a human. They're on the planet. And it turns out that the apes basically treat the humans the way that, we treat apes. They keep them in captivity and they use them to study and they treat them in different ways. And they believe that they are not sentient creatures, right?
Yeah. They have no soul.
And at one point they do go to the zoo, right? And there's all of these men and women and children in the zoo, and he finds it very disturbing and
Mhm.
distressing that they're there like as an exhibit. So in the midst of all this, we bought a zoo membership and have been with our child to the zoo like on multiple occasions. Oh, and we've also been he's into now on Disney Plus. There's a lot of zoo shows and vet shows. And in the morning, sometimes I give him the choice, do you want to see the animals or do you want to watch Daniel Tiger? And he always chooses to see the animals. So we've been watching a lot of zoo shows. And we were watching one this morning. Remember, there was like a gorilla that they had to do some procedure on. So
Yeah.
he was anesthetized. And it was kind of distressing to like see the gorilla like completely, helpless
Mhm.
and having this procedure done to him. If he understood what was happening to him, that would be awful.
Right. Which he doesn't.
Which he doesn't.
It's the thing I keep reminding myself throughout this entire thing is like, this is fiction.
Yeah.
It's designed to make me feel a certain way.
Yeah.
There is still a difference.
Yeah.
Between
Men and apes.
between men and apes.
Yes.
Frankly, there is.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that makes the book so effective. Effective enough that it would be adapted for decades.
Yeah.
The basic idea. Not that the central idea always makes it through unscathed.
Yeah.
Because as you say, the big thing in the book, the big like, whoa aspect of the book is, well, what if we were the apes and the apes were us?
Whoa.
But, as time goes on, they certainly kind of flirt with different metaphors.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that.
Yeah. So should we talk about the book real quick? Because the book, if you've seen either of these movies, the book there's a lot of differences that I found actually very interesting in how they translated to film.
So the 1968 version, the classic version that people know, Rod Serling took the first crack at writing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it really seems to me like he read the original book and thought, this is really good. I need to make this more exciting. I need to make this more Hollywood. It wasn't like he said, this is a neat idea. I'm going to tell a different story. He tells that story. It's just a little more boring.
Yeah.
A little more French.
Yeah.
Before you start, I just want to say who wrote it.
Okay.
It was written by Pierre Boulle, who also wrote The Bridge Over the River Kwai. And really no other books.
I mean, those are two good ones. If you have to write two, those are two good ones.
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good track record.
Yeah.
It was published as Monkey Planet in the UK.
Monkey Planet.
Planet of the Apes is a much better title
It's a
than
better
Monkey
title.
Planet.
It's
And
a
I'm
better
going
title.
to give you one specific reason why. None of these are monkeys.
Yeah, they're all apes.
They're not monkeys, they're apes. And there is a difference. This was my little thread of pedantry that kind of followed me throughout this entire experience.
Yes.
Because they're not monkeys, they're apes, and there's a difference.
When we went to the zoo, in fact, there was a little sign up saying the difference between monkeys and apes. I don't remember what the difference is. I think it had something to do with their tails. But
monkeys have tails.
monkeys have tails. So the little apes at the zoo.
Were there apes at the zoo?
Yeah, they're small apes. They're not monkeys. They're small apes.
Those were children you're thinking of.
No. Remember, like by the
They're
snack
like running
stand?
around and stuff?
No, no,
Yeah,
no.
at the snack stand.
Swinging from the branches. Those
Oh,
are
yes.
apes, small apes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the book, there is a framing device, and we see these this lovely couple flying through space together. It really sets the scene for how like futuristic, this is going to be. And they're sailing on a pleasure cruise through space in their. It reminded me of that Deep Space Nine episode where they go in like the sailing ship.
Solar sailing.
The solar
and everything.
sail.
That
Yeah,
episode is terrible.
That's terrible, but that's what it made me think of. And they stumble across essentially this like message in a bottle, and it's this like long treatise written by someone, and they
to be
say,
clear.
"Let's read this out."
It is a message in a bottle.
Yes,
It's not essentially a message. It is a message in a bottle.
it's a message in a bottle.
This isn't a figurative bottle.
Yeah.
It's not one of those things. A literal bottle with a literal message in it.
Yeah. And so the way the story begins is they start to the husband starts to read it to the wife, and the wife keeps interrupting him, going like, "Oh, that's crazy," like blah. And I turned to Jeremy like very early on as we were reading this, and I was like, "These are going to be monkeys, aren't they?" And he was like,
No, because
apes.
they're not monkeys. They're
Yeah.
apes.
So anyway, it's kind of a gotcha.
And yes, probably.
It's kind of a gotcha reveal at the end that this couple, because obviously, as you open a book, you would imagine the characters to be human. It's kind of a big twist reveal at the end that they are themselves apes.
They're chimpanzees.
Chimpanzees. Reading this book about this experience that this human person had. So He's an astronaut.
It's like a journalist.
Yeah. Well, he volunteered to go on
Like
this
an astronaut
space
on some kind of
Star
Trek.
Okay, we've now made 2 Star Trek references in 45 seconds.
Won't be the last one.
He volunteered. He didn't have like any like friends or like wife or anything, and so he volunteered to go on this mission that basically is going to use the warp space-time continuum to get them very, very far away, and not much time will pass for them on the ship, but a lot of time will have passed back home on Earth.
Can I describe it in a little more detail?
Space-time continuum.
Just a little more specifically.
Space-time continuum.
So there's Professor Antel and another guy, Arthur Levin, or Levin. What they are going to do is they are going to fly their ship through space to Beetlejuice. It's going to take them like a year to get there, but they're going to be traveling so fast, obviously because of relativity, time on Earth is going to be passing much faster. So for them, it'll be a year, but on Earth, it's going to be like hundreds of years.
Yeah.
They're going to get there, and then they're going to come back, and it'll take them another year, and it will still be hundreds of years more on Earth.
Yeah.
So they already know what they're signing up for is a 2-year voyage on their end, but it's going to be like 700 years on our end.
Yeah.
And as you say, no family. He's fine with this.
Yes. Long story short, they crash on the planet.
Oh, and this man's name is Ulysse.
His name is Ulysse.
By the way, Ulysse Meroux.
And they get there.
He's very French.
And they are like, this is not good. We got to find.
No, they have a 4th member of the crew.
Oh.
Poor Hector.
Poor Hector.
Poor Hector, their chimpanzee.
Yes, dear Hector the chimpanzee does not make it.
He doesn't last very
long.
Very many chapters at all.
Yeah, which is very upsetting. So they're like on this planet, they're trying to find like food and water and this and that, and they run into, and it's like, oh my God, we live here now, basically. Because,
oh my God.
I was wrong. Their ship is destroyed, whatever. And
well, their ship is destroyed by the people. Their ship is fine because their ship is in orbit.
Oh, their ship is in orbit.
And they have a little.
That's right. They've
got
like
a little
pod.
pod that takes them down.
Yeah.
And then while they're down, they go swimming.
Yeah.
They take all their clothes off and they go swimming.
Like you do.
By the way, if you haven't read the book and you've seen the Charlton Heston movie, a lot of this should sound familiar.
Yeah. The actual, I just want to call out a very big difference, which is that they know they can escape if they can get back to their ship, which is in orbit. But obviously that appears impossible at this time.
Well, their ship is fine at this point, but what happens is they see this lady, and this lady is very, very attractive, like the most beautiful woman they've ever seen.
Yeah.
She's also very naked.
Yeah.
She also seems to be an animal.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't talk.
She just makes noises.
And then their monkey runs across, and she kills him.
She strangles him with her bare hands.
Which is like the first thing to me that was super unbelievable in all of this.
Yeah.
I just want to throw something out. It might come up multiple times. I want to let all of you into something that scares the shit out of Jeremy Latour. Chimpanzees are the scariest creatures on Earth because they're so cute and we all love them, but they are murder machines.
That chimp ate that lady's face.
Like, they will go for your eyes.
Yeah.
And they will mess you up so badly. They terrify me. Every time I see a movie where actors have to interact with chimpanzees, I just think, they should fire their agent. They should absolutely fire their agent because from everything I have seen up until this point, chimpanzees are really cute and terrifying, and gorillas are really scary, but not that bad.
We were watching one of those zoo shows, and one of the keepers said the chimpanzees are the most dangerous animals we have in the zoo because they're very, very strong, but also very, very smart. So like they have rhinos, right, who are very, very strong, but they're very, very stupid. So like you can outsmart a rhino, you cannot outsmart a chimpanzee. It's smarter than you are probably.
So bottom line, chimpanzees scare the shit out of me.
Yeah.
And I just want to put that out there. It'll probably come up again.
Yeah.
Anyway, they name her Nova.
And then that's just her name forever.
Yep.
Like this is just how he thinks. Like you have to remind yourself sometimes that this is actually not this woman's name. This is just what he has named her in his head.
Yes. And Hector runs across and she goes, ah! And she strangles him, which to me is very unbelievable because, again, as I said, if you put like just some lady, like yay naked lady, in a fight with a chimpanzee, my money is on the chimpanzee every single time.
Well, she's learned through hard experience how to murder chimpanzees.
Hector does not make it, and it's very sad.
Yeah, and the narrator is even like, who would murder such a beautiful, sweet pet?
Yeah. Ulysse is, by the way, our narrator.
Yes.
This is all from his perspective. But then all the other people show up, and they take all their clothes off their bodies which
Yeah.
is very creepy. And then they find their ship and they basically destroy the ship.
Yeah.
All of these humans do.
Yeah.
So now they can't get back to their ship
Yeah.
up in orbit.
And then as all of this weird stuff is happening and they're realizing like these humans can't talk and they're like basically, as what we would think of as animals.
Clearly they're all sitting here going, man, we understand what this story is. And
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Couldn't possibly get any crazier, could it?
Before you know it, these gorillas come riding up on horseback and start basically shooting, hunting, trapping, killing. They're on a hunt, like a formal hunt. They're all just like running for their lives and screaming, and they kill a bunch of them, and they capture a bunch of them alive, and they're all taken in cages back to like this like country home where like the women are waiting for the men, like sipping their drinks and like wearing hats, to come back with their prey. And the apes are all wearing clothing, right? The humans are all completely naked.
And the clothing they're wearing is very modern.
Very modern.
I mean, basically the way he describes these apes is they're dressed the way humans were at the time the book came out.
Yeah.
And here's another thing about it that I'm fascinated to hear that no other version has ever done is the apes have their own language.
They're speaking ape language, yeah.
Right? And I am fascinated to know what that sounds like because it sounds like he learns it, like 13th Warrior style. Does that reference land?
No.
Antonio Banderas, Campfire, Vikings. Anyway, he learns it by listening. And so clearly it's a language that's enough like, a romance language or something like that for him to learn.
I guess, yeah. I mean, it could be any kind of language.
I am just fascinated to know what the author heard in his head.
Yeah.
Or if he was just totally like, I'm not even going to.
If he was literally just hearing, ooh, ooh, ah, ah.
But no, but it's a language. It's
Yeah.
actual words. He can tell. I'm fascinated to know what that language sounds like.
Yeah.
But very different than any other version we've ever saw, which also, like, it definitely helps with the idea that this is another planet that isn't Earth, because it is really hard to read this book having seen the movie.
Yeah.
I said spoiler alerts at the beginning, like, it was Earth all along. That's the
my
whole
God.
thing.
I was wrong. It was Earth all along.
That's the whole thing about Planet of the Apes. So reading this book was really weird for me because the entire time I'm thinking, how are we going to find out that this was actually Earth the entire time?
Yeah. Spoiler, it's not.
It's not. It's another planet that's very much like Earth, and they go through something that Earth could go through, which is that apes could take over and subjugate humankind.
Yeah.
And humankind would become animalistic and feral.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, I know I'm skipping to the end,
You're
but
skipping to the end. I had a lot more to say.
we're going to go back.
Great.
You get to the end and you find out that, he gets back to Earth and the same thing has happened on Earth.
Yes.
We'll get back to that, but that's the twist.
That's the big twist.
It wasn't Earth. The twist isn't that it was Earth all along. The twist is here's a planet that's so much like Earth. The same thing could happen to Earth, and in fact, the same thing does happen to Earth.
Which is the same plot in the 2001 movie version. That they go back to that ending.
Kind of.
Not in the exact same way, but like
kind of, but dumber.
Yeah, it is dumb.
We'll
We'll talk about it later. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring it up.
But the reason I bring all of this up is one thing that does help me kind of believe that it's a different planet is the fact that they're not speaking English.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any sense to me that anyone would land on a planet, hear these apes talking English, and go, this is clearly another planet. Clearly, it's not Earth.
Sure. Okay. Our hero, Ulysse, is captured. He doesn't know what's become of his friends.
Yes, he does.
One is dead.
Yeah, one got shot.
One got shot. He saw one of them die. He doesn't know what happened to the other one. And he gets taken to this like lab where he meets an ape scientist whose job it is to study humans. And her name is Zira, and she has a fiance whose name is Cornelius. And he is also very interested in this idea that like there may have been human ancestry of apes, or like that there had been this big switch back in the day,
because she's a biologist and he's an archaeologist.
Right. And he's been finding these like artifacts or things that he thinks are a little bit suspicious, and so like he can't communicate with them, but he also sees that those two are chimpanzees who do like sort of like the day-to-day work and science. The gorillas are more like the military. They tend to be like the military or like the muscle, and then the orangutans are like the government. But like also like the government is based on science, which is nice. It's sort of a weird quasi-sciencey, religious-y, like old school, like they're not open to like new thoughts or new ideas type of thing.
And there's a reason for that, which I would love to get into in a few minutes.
Okay. But I just want to introduce one more character. His name is Dr. Zaius. He is like the chief orangutan. He is the one that they are continually trying to convince that like this human is like a special human and he can talk and he can talk.
I can sing.
And that they should like listen to him and all this stuff. Okay, so what were you going to say about all that?
I just want to go back. I only just brought up my notes from the book, and I have some choice phrases that I would like to read. I'd like to go back for one moment, if it's okay.
Yeah.
To before they meet all the other humans.
Yeah.
They find a footprint.
Yeah.
It is a woman's foot, Arthur Levain declared. This peremptory remark, made in a strangled voice, did not surprise me at all. It confirmed my own opinion. The slimness, the elegance, the singular beauty of the footprint had disturbed me profoundly. There could be no doubt as to the humanness of the foot. Perhaps it belonged to an adolescent or to a small man, but with much more likelihood, and this I hoped with all my heart, to a woman. This book is ridiculously French.
He's very French. And
and he's talking about Nova when they find out like she can't talk and is like so animalistic. He says, "But how could one hold this against her when faced with the perfection of her body?"
Yeah. So like
it'd be like super gross if it wasn't so ridiculous.
Yeah.
As it is, it's just a little gross.
Yeah. So small spoiler: he does bang Nova like a bunch of times and like makes her pregnant.
But he does it never explicitly. He lets her have, the author lets her have her dignity.
Yeah, and I also want to point out that he many times asks, "Can I please wear some clothes? I'm very uncomfortable being naked all the time." And the apes basically tell him, "No, you may not. It would make us too uncomfortable to see a human wearing clothes. That would just be so strange and weird."
Yeah. This is a super big thing because one of the things that we saw that happen is that the humans get more advanced with every version.
Yeah.
In this version, they are animals. And animals, I don't know if you knew this, animals don't wear clothing pretty much as a rule. So it is a given that Ulysse is hanging dong the entire time. I'm not going to blame them. You make a movie, you think, well, I'd like people to go see it. So I'd certainly like to, have it be in theaters. Maybe not most of the cast. What I want to do is I want to take half my cast and put them in ape makeup, and then the other half I'm going to put them in no clothing whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't see how you can do that.
Yeah. Especially when one of your actors is Charlton Heston, because that's just box office poison right there.
He's the only one who gets naked.
I know.
He actually gets naked.
A terrible sight to see.
I love the tests that they do to him, too, because they do all of these. Once he's in the lab and everything, they do all of these tests. This goes on for chapters and chapters. Every single test they give him, and he knows exactly how to put the box inside the other box, and you don't touch the thing. And he's so proud of himself.
It's like all problem solving, and it's like, dude, like you're so proud of knowing how to do like tests that an ape or a monkey would be able to do on Earth. Well, because that's what he says. He's like, I knew these tests because we give them to our monkeys at home.
Yeah.
And so he's so pleased with himself for his like cognitive function.
But anyway, like Antonio Banderas around a campfire with Vikings, he just listens and starts to learn their language. And he finally says to Zira, because in Zira he finds two things. One, an ape he can trust. And two, an ape he might be able to bone down with.
Just for the fun.
I mean, try anything once.
Yeah.
Just a small selection. He talks about her hand. He says, I seized it with emotion, meanwhile gently whispering her name. The blush that mantled her muzzle showed me she was deeply touched. And I wrote down that they're going to bone down. I yielded to the soulfulness of her expression, managing to overlook her physical appearance. I put my hand on her long, hairy paw. This is one of 20 examples through this book of this physical intimacy between this man and this ape. And when we get to the end, the only reason they don't bone down is because she thinks he's too ugly.
Yeah.
He wants to. He is into it.
He's into it.
And if she could get over how ugly he was, he would be boning down with the chimp.
But she's like, even despite her fiance, like again, like she's a scientist, right? Like she's open to new experience. She's like, this is probably my one chance to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But she can't bring herself to.
But I want to throw this out there.
Yeah.
Before you saw any of these, did you know the context? Let me ask you this. Did you know the classic line, "Get your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape"?
From the Simpsons episode, yes.
Right. Did you understand the context of it, though, in the movie?
No.
What is the context?
The context is that in the 1968 film, the way they get around the question of language, because obviously they're all speaking English, is they make Charlton Heston's character like injure his throat, so he can't speak, like it hurts him to speak. And so he just keeps like gesturing and grunting and everything, and they don't know that he can speak. And then he's like
just like an animal, except they're all wearing clothes.
All
the humans are wearing clothes.
And then he tries to escape at one point, and they catch him, and he swings around and cries out, "Get your paws off me, you damn dirty ape!" And and everyone goes, and that's he can talk. So that's they all at that point realize he can talk. So in the book,
he says something to Zira for the first time, but
in her language.
And now, did you clock this when you first read it? The significance of the difference?
I didn't because I didn't understand I didn't understand the significance of the moment in the movie versus the book. So go ahead. Yes, what does he say to Zira? So again, remember, in the 1968 movie, the famous line, like one of the top three famous lines.
Just for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to play it.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape.
Okay, and now here's the version from the book. How do you do? I am a man from Earth. I've had a long journey.
In French, of course.
In French. Obviously in French.
Yes.
I'd say those two things are different.
They're very different.
One is very cinematic and compelling, and the other one is, I don't know, a little more literary, a little more, French.
Again, of course, she's shocked by this.
Yes.
And, over the course of weeks and months, like, he manages to sort of tell her his story and, like, teaches her French, of course, and she teaches him more of her language. Oh, and he explains to her, I had this companion. I saw one of my companions killed, or two, actually, if you count poor Hector. But I don't know what became of this other companion. And she's like, yeah, well, let's go find him. So she takes him to the zoo where she's like, all the humans that were captured on this particular hunting excursion are in this zoo exhibit. Like, we'll go find him. Again, naked as the day he was born this entire time, walks up to the exhibit, and it is Professor
Untel.
And so he sees, he's so excited. He sees him, Professor, like, of course he's pretending, right? To survive, to blend in. He's pretending to be, this primitive man, but he says, don't worry. Like, they believe me now. Like, they understand who we are. Like, you can stop pretending. And the professor he's gone. He has reverted back, and he has, gone feral.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, this whole time this is met by a lot of resistance by Dr. Zaius, who keeps saying, like, this is just like parlor tricks. It's like teaching a horse to tap its foot like a certain number of times. Like, you can teach, yes, they're mimics, you can teach them anything, but
can I talk a little bit about that?
Please.
Because here's the big thing that we find out about how this whole thing happened. How did these apes get to be in charge? This is the part of the book that I thought was the most interesting. I enjoyed it. I'm not going to say it was the most believable, but, like, that's not really the point of something like this. It's kind of hard sci-fi.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Cornelius has really figured out, he has these long conversations with Ulysses about what's going on. Essentially, ape culture is defined by mimicry.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole thing. When ape babies are born and they grow up, they learn everything by copying what they see.
To ape, in fact.
Yeah, and exactly. And their big hypothesis is this is one of the reasons why ape culture has stagnated.
Yeah.
They're advancing a little bit, but it's taking them a lot longer to advance than it took humans. Because what happened thousands of years ago is that apes overthrew humanity, grew to be smarter just by copying, but now without humans to copy, now they're just kind of left to their own devices.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of, like, original thought, so that's why they're still relying on these sort of things that were known, hundreds of years ago.
And they are doing some new stuff. Like, the chimpanzees are smart. The chimpanzees know what's going on, and they're figuring stuff out. But they're like, everything has to go in front of the orangutans, and they don't want anything new to happen because they're in power.
Yeah.
Right? And this is just It's one of those things that I feel like is hard to translate to anything else, because I don't even know if it's a fully formed idea, but it was an interesting idea. I dug it.
Yeah.
I dug that part of it because it was not something I'd seen in the movies.
Yeah. So let's just kind of wrap up the plot here.
Oh, then I want to talk more about Ulysses trying to fuck Zira.
Yeah. That's fine.
Okay, so like 3 or 4 things really quickly. As far as the plot goes, they're gonna have him killed. Like the orangutans are gonna have him killed.
Yeah.
And Zira and Cornelius help him, and Nova, and their new son.
Yeah.
who's born before they go up on the ship.
Yes.
Yes.
Because Zira, remember, she's like, I'm like personally supervising her pregnancy.
Yes.
And then the baby's born, and they won't let him see the baby.
And the baby can
everything
walk
like that.
and talk at 3 months.
Yes.
It's miraculous.
Cannot.
It's crazy. That's
Impossible.
not a thing.
Yes.
In this story about a monkey planet,
Yeah.
that's impossible.
Yeah, impossible.
They finally get them on board a ship, and that ship goes up, and we don't even see what happens. It's just presented as, and we got back to our ship, and we went back to Earth.
Yeah.
And it's all without any conflict.
Yeah, because we see a little bit like on the ship. He's like the baby was growing up, and like
I'm just talking about getting to the ship.
Oh yeah.
Nothing. It just happens.
Yeah.
They're suddenly on the ship, and everything's okay. There's like no conflict in the book whatsoever. Things just happen very easily for our main character.
Yeah.
But in the year that it takes them to get home, their son gets smarter and smarter. Nova starts talking.
Yeah.
And when they get to Earth, they land in France, and a Jeep pulls up, and there's a gorilla. Big problem I have with this, quick sidebar. This is just the basic idea that this guy wrote down his story, put it in a bottle, and launched it to space. I don't know why he would end it there on this cliffhanger, because the whole thing is he's been giving way more detail than he needs to.
Yeah.
This is an incredibly detailed account of his time. I don't know why he would want to end it with a cliffhanger. It seems like that's just a thing books do, not necessarily a thing that his personal account would do.
Yes, I mean, maybe the next chapters were lost or in like volume 2.
I'm saying you can come up with
You
a
can come up
reason
with
why
lots
it's
of
that way,
reasons, yeah.
but it's not in the text.
Yeah.
Another thing about this, the idea of genetic memory is introduced. Because when he's going through the labs with the chimpanzee scientists who've been doing brain stuff to the humans, it's very disturbing, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I didn't like that part.
One of the things they find out is that humans have genetic memory, and they've got this lady, and they've figured out how to get her to regress into the past of humanity to talk about how the ape uprising actually
I forgot
happened.
about this. I thought it, for some reason I was thinking it was just they found like a diary or something, but I guess that's one of the movies.
Yeah, this is literally, she is telling them everything from the perspective of someone that lived it.
Very convenient.
Because of genetic memory.
Yes.
Which I think is silly.
So she basically takes on this persona of this person that lived through this whole thing, and she's like, the apes are taking over, they're getting really smart, we're all getting really tired and just want to hang out, you know.
It's past life regression with science.
Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't really do anything. But biggest thing, Ulysses is trying to fuck Zira. So I feel like there is no passage in the entire book that is laying the groundwork for it more than this. He's at a party, and he's talking about how he's getting confused. And he says, quote, "The confusion was caused by the alcohol that I started swilling as soon as I arrived and to which my system was no longer accustomed. The disturbing effect was an odd sensation that was to come over me later on many other occasions. I can only describe it by saying that the nature of the figures around me became progressively less simian, whereas their function or the position they held in society became dominant. The head waiter, for instance, who came up obsequiously to show us our table, I saw only as the head waiter, and the fact that he was a gorilla tended to be obscured. The figure of an elderly she-ape with an outrageously painted face was replaced by that of an old coquette, and when I danced with Zira, I forgot her condition completely, and my arm merely encircled the waist of a dancer. The chimpanzee orchestra was nothing more than an orchestra, and the elegant apes exchanging witticisms all around me were simply men about town." This is laying the groundwork to Bone Down more than anything.
Yeah.
This is the author telling me, here's the deal. I need you to know, I'm not saying they're gonna fuck, but like Ulysses was gonna want to.
Just get a couple drinks in him, and like he's got some beer goggles. He wants to go.
And as I say, he does try to, and Zira says no. It is one of the most interesting and French aspects of this book, and it is just something that I guess was not something anyone was interested in for several decades. But then, we're going to talk about it in 2001 a little bit. I feel like this came back a little bit.
Oh yeah. It
Like-
totally did. They're like into each other,
Right? But anyway, we can stick a pin in that.
Yeah.
Because that's the book. Did you have any other stuff?
No, I guess the biggest difference for me, obviously, was like I was just waiting and waiting and waiting to hear it was Earth all along, and then it was not.
It was not.
So that was like a little bit strange. The whole thing about him being naked the whole time, like I almost couldn't. Like, I know we've talked about it now so much, but like it was very as we get into like again, as you say, like the humans get more and more advanced.
Yeah.
The farther these movies go on, like it is a pretty enormous change that like not only are the humans unclothed, but the apes would see it as like an insult to the humans' dignity to put clothes on them.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay, so the same year, 1963, actually before the book was published, Arthur P. Jacobs bought the rights to make a movie. but it took 5 years. 1968, Planet of the Apes comes out. It is directed by Franklin J. Schaffner. He also did Papillon and Patton and The Boys from Brazil.
You know, like you do.
Like big movies. Written by Michael Wilson and Rod Serling. Now, to be really specific, Serling wrote the original script and outline, and then Michael Wilson was brought in to revamp it. Because one of the things that Serling did is Serling really adopted the idea that, oh, well, the apes, their civilization is basically the same as ours.
Yeah.
And when they were making it, the studio basically said, okay, that's too much money. How do you make it cost less money?
Yeah.
And they're like, we could make the apes more primitive. And they're like, yes, do that. So Michael Wilson comes in and basically rewrites the entire movie and rewrites all the dialogue, but kept the structures the same, but the idea that the apes are more primitive than humanity was an invention that came halfway through the writing of it.
Yeah. Oh, well, so there was one thing that we kind of forgot to talk about with the book that I think is important.
Yes.
So Cornelius has this archaeological dig going on, and at one point they like fly to another area of the planet, like another country, and like he talks about like going on an airplane and going through customs and going through like the sort of the usual formalities of like having to do the because at a certain point they allow him to like wear clothes and stuff because they're like this is like an intelligent person. But the thing that they find in this archaeological dig is a little doll, a human doll, and Dr. Zayas is like, I mean, you know, any monkey child, any ape child could have a human doll. And they're like, yeah, but the doll's wearing clothes. Like, humans don't wear clothes. And Zayas is like, that doesn't prove anything. Like, you could dress up a human doll in clothes and still be an ape child. And then they realize they pulled the string and the doll says Papa. And they're like, why would an ape civilization from hundreds or thousands of years ago create a baby human doll that not only wears clothes but talks? Like if the premise is that humans have never been able to talk and will never be able to talk and have always been the same as they are now, that doesn't make sense. No one would do that. That doesn't make any sense.
Because of course our fiction and movies don't involve animals that talk.
Yeah. But this is the
This is the logic
this
in
is
the book.
line that they draw. Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, I just thought I wanted to point that out as you were talking about like making the as an example of like how advanced the apes in the book are. They have airplanes and airports and customs and like all of that stuff.
Whereas in this movie, flight is a scientific impossibility according to them.
And they're in like horses and carriages.
Yeah.
Horses and carts.
I mean, it's weird to describe a movie like this that is so popular.
Yeah.
And it's been around for decades and so many people have seen it either in full or in part on TV. Like, I feel like everyone has some experience with Planet of the Apes, even if the only experience you have with it is like The Simpsons and you know the ending. Like, I feel like it is in the popular consciousness, but it's crazy to me how different the book is from the movie.
Yeah.
He's so French and he's so refined. And you take this guy who's so utterly French and you replace him with someone who is so utterly American.
Yeah.
It's Charlton Heston.
If anyone was a man.
If anyone was a man. Swaggering around. It's
smoking cigars,
laughing at everything, talking condescendingly about liberals.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of ridiculous how much he embodies that particular breed of American man.
Don't trust anybody over 30, kid.
Have we ever seen anything that had Charlton Heston being Charlton Heston more than this? Because I would argue
Airport
no.
75.
I don't know. In that, he was like, that was like the American man who needs to leap into action.
Yeah.
But that guy never like waxed philosophical about the nature of things.
Yeah.
This guy, like Taylor, he fancies himself a philosopher.
Yeah.
And he's real chill about the fact that they are traveling, for those that haven't seen it, the difference is he is part of, like, it's not NASA, it's like ANSA or something like that. They're traveling through space. He goes into cryosleep. It's him and his 3 companions, 2 guys and a lady.
Yeah.
And they go into cryosleep and suddenly they're crash landing on a planet and they were asleep too long and the clock is telling them that it's like 1,000 years in the future. And they go to look at the lady and the lady's been dead for a real long time.
She's a skeleton.
Yeah, because her thing leaked, and they crash land on this planet in the ocean, and he and his two other guys, they grab a life raft and some metal backpacks, which look like the most ridiculous, uncomfortable backpacks you could ever wear.
It gets so hot, too, if you're out in the sunshine.
Just so absurd. And they make it to shore, and they go wandering through a desert, and finally they find like a big clearing with a pool and a waterfall, and they all go swimming naked, and Charlton Heston hangs dong for like a second.
A terrible sight to see. I just want to point out a couple things that you kind of skipped over. One,
A number of things.
the lady astronaut,
Stewart.
they were supposed to populate like a new planet, and she was supposed to be like the gestational womb for like all three of them to like mate and breed with.
It's like,
Which is disgusting, and also like will lead to a lot of inbreeding down the line. If like every person on the planet comes from the same two people, like that's no good.
no.
So the lady gets killed before the movie even starts. He's left with his two friends, a white guy and a black guy, and I looked at you and I was like, which of these do you think is gonna bite it in the first 15 minutes of the movie, and which of them do you think is gonna survive?
But then American Charlton Heston looks at all these primitive humans and goes, in 6 months we'll be running this planet.
He does
It's
say
the most
that.
American thing he could possibly have
He
said.
does say that. It's a very, very sort of capitalist labor
Do you remember?
point of view.
Do you remember his like
Labor
his
exploiter.
moralizing about lovemaking without love?
No, I think I might have tuned it out.
When he's talking to Nova, I
Oh,
think,
God.
and he's like, how many women have I been with? Oh, there's lots of love making, but no love.
Yeah, and I think he's smoking a cigar at the time.
I mean, maybe at that point. It was earlier when he still had cigars.
Yeah, well, he had the cigars. Remember on the ship, he was like sitting there smoking a cigar, like on the spaceship.
Yeah, I might be misremembering where these things happen in the movie.
Yeah,
Little things jumped out at me too. I'm just looking at my notes. There's a thing where he's talking to one of the other astronauts, and he's talking about how like we all know you were like top of your class of '72, and I remembered like, oh yeah, because they're from the future. They're
Right.
from our future in 1968. But it's amazing how when you make it like class of '72, you've got that's only going to hit for a little while.
Yeah.
And like once you hit 1972, that's not really going to mean anything.
Yeah.
Your whole future thing is gone at that point.
Yeah.
I also forgot how pulpy it is. You know, that's actually, I keep talking about these things about him being this like quintessential American. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It makes the whole story feel so much more pulpy and so
Yeah.
much more exciting and less like heady sci-fi. And
Yeah.
it's more of an adventure story.
I mean, the wigs alone are so bad, like you can't take it seriously.
Are you talking about the apes?
No, the humans.
Or are you talking about Nova's wig?
I'm talking about Nova. Well, Nova's wig is okay. Everybody else's, like, there's beard wigs on a lot of people that don't
Yeah.
look good. Remember, because they have to have long hair because their hair grows, so obviously they've got to have wigs
You
on.
mean when they wake up in the
when
spaceship?
they wake up in the spaceship,
Yeah.
yeah, the wigs are really bad, and
I
they've
feel
got like
like-
beard wigs too.
I feel like Heston's beard was real, but the other guys
Yeah, no, I
wasn't.
think that's right. I think
Yeah.
that's right. Okay.
We're,
And then at one
there's
point
so
he
much-
shaves, and he has to have a conversation with like the little ape teenager about why he's shaving his face, and like, well, only those radical kids these days are the ones that wear beards. Back in my time.
Let me talk to you about
Don't
how
trust
great
anyone over 30.
guns are.
Yeah.
There's like whole aspects of this we haven't even got to that I think are really important to get to.
Okay.
Because I want to talk about the cast a little
Yep.
bit. It's weird that I'm going to ask you this because I feel like you've already given your opinion, but what did you think of Charlton Heston in this role? Because I know you don't like Charlton Heston.
I hate Charlton Heston.
But I think he's great in this. Like, I think it's his part.
Here's what it is, right? You are supposed to find him sympathetic. I don't, because
Right.
it's Charlton Heston.
Yep.
And you're supposed to find some kind of interest in his like little love triangle that he's got going. I don't, because I find it disgusting because he's Charlton Heston.
Not disgusting because one of the people in the triangle is a chimpanzee.
Well, one of the people in the triangle is is a chimpanzee, and one of the people in the triangle has no capacity to consent.
yes.
So both of those things are very
I
bad.
feel bad that I didn't go to that first.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
So none of that is good, you know? Like none of that's enjoyable for me.
Yeah. I like him in this. I don't love him in it. If it was someone else, I probably would still really enjoy the movie.
Yeah.
But, like, I like him in it.
I
but
mean, I don't know who else in 1968 you cast in this movie.
I don't
right?
know.
Like who? I don't know.
But let's talk about the more important thing.
All right.
Let's talk about the apes.
Okay. Our friends, the apes.
Because there are some people who are really good. Like Maurice Evans is Dr. Zaius.
Dr. Zaius. Dr.
And
Zaius.
he's great. Like
Dr.
he's
Zaius,
legitimately
Dr.
great.
Zaius.
It was almost Edward G. Robinson. Oh, we didn't. Oh my God. We never even. I need to show you something. I need you to react to this like live on the show.
Okay.
This is the original studio pitch and makeup test for
Oh,
Planet of the Apes
no.
with Edward G. Robinson as Dr. Zaius,
Okay.
James Brolin as Cornelius,
Okay.
and Linda Harrison, who played Nova, as Zira.
Okay.
I just want you to
Oh, there's
see.
Charlton.
Charlton's there. That's what Edward G. Robinson looks like. And I'm going to link to this in the show notes. It's worth it for everybody to
Oh my
watch.
God.
What do you think of that makeup? Because this was just the test makeup. Can you see Zaius in him?
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, the makeup
Like-
seems better than the movie makeup.
I don't know. They don't have those snouts.
Yeah, the
you know?
snouts are the things that are so like weird and like kind of plasticky.
Here's my big question
I
for
mean,
you,
but
though.
and his outfit is totally different too. This is like he's like in a white coat with like a tie and a vest.
Yeah.
Like they're not in those like weird sci-fi outfits.
Well, that was one of the interesting things with the costuming is they don't really get into the whole like class differences between gorillas and orangutans and chimpanzees.
Yeah.
But they all dress the same.
Oh God, no, that is disturbing.
Yeah?
That is real. That's very uncanny
Now,
valley.
here's the thing. I haven't gotten a Cornelius and Zira.
Okay.
I don't know how far along they were in the testing process for the makeup.
Yeah.
But this is what Cornelius and Zira look like.
Okay, that's a
Oh,
doll.
look, they find the
They
doll.
find the doll, the haunted doll.
Yep.
Charlton Heston's horrified. Oh God. Why do they look like Odo?
They are terrifying. Do they look like chimpanzees?
No, are they
at
supposed to
all?
be chimpanzees, or
They
is it just
are.
like some kind of? Is it just like a color test, maybe, for like
I
how the color of the makeup is? 'Cause
Genuinely have no
there's
idea.
no way that those are supposed to be chimpanzees.
I don't know what the makeup is, but it's kind of terrifying. They
So-
just have smooth skin.
They look like okay. They look like Odo.
Yes.
Anyone who's watching this, feel free to pull up a picture of Sheriff Odo, and that is what they look like. God, I hate this makeup. No. Wait. I want to see the apes again. What is it supposed to be?
I think it's literally just a test.
I think it must be just for the color.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
Yep.
no way that's like the prosthetic.
Anyway, I wanted to
Anyway.
show that to you. This is very rare that we have like live reaction
We never
here.
do that. We never. I'm really into these YouTube like so and so reacts to such and such. Maybe we can get into more of that.
I don't know, maybe.
It's a little bit hard in a purely audio format.
Here's the thing, though. I bring all of this up for a reason, and I'm getting there. There's a point to my line here. Maurice Evans as Dr. Zaius is very good. Kim Hunter as Zira is really, really good.
Uh-huh.
I loved Kim Hunter in this movie. Roddy McDowall, though, it is hard to understate just how much he owns this movie.
Yeah. Well, he manages to do facial expressions below that makeup that are pretty amazing.
I mean, he and Kim Hunter have like the most amazing eyes in the movie. They
Yeah.
do so much just with their eyes. Like Roddy McDowall was born to play this part, and I'm not the only person saying that. He's in every single one of the other movies,
Yeah.
and not just as Cornelius. He plays other ape characters too.
Okay.
And then he's in the TV show that we're going to talk about. Like Roddy McDowall's whole career was like 50% Planet of the Apes and 50% like showing up in Disney movies
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff for a number of years.
Yeah.
But he's so good in it. I don't like there's nothing ironic. There's nothing about this where I feel like it's camp. I feel like Roddy McDowall and Kim Hunter were turning in legitimately fantastic performances under all of that loaf.
Yeah.
And they did a great job.
did a good
They're
job.
so good.
Yeah.
And I knew that going in, and I was still blown away by it because it'd been years since I saw it.
Yeah.
And Kim Hunter, a big change they make. Kim Hunter has now named Taylor. She
Yep.
names him. I'm trying to come up with a Connor Oberst joke, but I can't really make anything work. She names him Bright Eyes.
Yeah.
Clearly, she's a fan of that era
Yeah.
of music.
Modest Mouse.
She was almost going to name him Modest Mouse.
Yeah.
But then she decided to go with Bright
There
Eyes
it is.
instead.
There it is. There it
Thank
is.
you for helping me right there.
Yeah.
I feel like I actually don't. It's hard for me to talk about it because I just know it really well, and I think it's kind of a fun. I think it's kind of a fun movie that doesn't really bear like crazy conversation. So I want to hand this over to you for a bit because I feel like you have more reaction than I do.
I mean, I think I just want to talk about like one thing they added was an overt religious element to
Oh,
the ape
yeah.
society. They talk about like the founders, I think, or like the scriptures or the ancient scrolls or something like that. They're
always a prophecy or
yeah,
a
there's
scroll
a prophecy,
or something.
and it's like
there's no prophecy, but there's scrolls.
There's lots of scrolls, and it's like everything's against like some stricture or scripture. You know, like name the 46th commandment, so you know that you can't do that thing. And Dr. Zaius is in a strange capacity because he's the head scientist, but he's also defender of the faith. So sometimes it seems that those two things are in conflict, and it seems that when science clashes with faith, he goes with faith rather than science. So they do kind of hang a lantern on the fact that it's problematic to have those two things represented in one body.
Yeah.
They also really hang a lantern on like Roddy McDowall's character's like he believes in this blasphemous thing called evolution. It's like, oh, they're just gonna go ahead and say it. They're not even doing an allegory.
Roddy McDowall doesn't say that.
No. Dr. Zayas says it about Roddy McDowall.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It's just like, oh, they're not even doing like an allegory or anything. They're just gonna talk about how the apes don't believe in evolution. Like they're just you told me it's not hanging a lantern on it, but I think it is.
It's not hanging a lantern on it.
And then remember at one point, like Charlton Heston's trying to escape, and he like bursts in on this like church service that they're having. Like it's a very religious society because the book didn't have that like direct comparison to like the ape human evolution, sort of controversy, right?
Yeah.
Like it was sort of implied, but not out there on the surface. And so that was something they definitely added for the movie. I also will say the sight of the apes kissing each other in the ape makeup, I did not enjoy.
I mean, it was like Kermit and Miss Piggy kissing.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, exactly. It was like two Muppets.
It was like if you had two tennis balls and you were just kind of
Touching
hitting them against each other.
Yeah.
I mean, Roddy McDowall and Kim Hunter make it work. They make it super cute, but it is a very silly thing to look at.
And so I do think we need to talk about the end of the movie because we have not explicitly described like what happens. Okay. Charlton Heston and Nova have escaped with the help of the apes in sort of the dead of night. They've been held in this facility and they're all escaping. They get like a horse and some supplies and they all go to this cave because the cave is where Cornelius has been doing this archaeological dig, and that's where they find the doll that is supposedly the proof that humans were here and had like a functioning society before apes were ever around.
Yep, because of course no one would ever make a doll of a creature that normally doesn't talk. They would never make that talk.
Impossible. No one would do that. Impossible. So they all come out of the cave, and Dr. Zayas and his men have caught up with them, and there's sort of this like
shootout.
There's
a shootout.
There's a bit of a shootout. There's a bit of standoff.
Which Charlton Heston wins with his American guile.
Wins, and he gets Dr. Zayas to like release them and give them a head start. So he and Nova. They say goodbye. This is where Zira tells Taylor she can't kiss him because he's too damn ugly.
But he does kiss her, and she's like kind of bashful. But she's like, okay, I guess you are Charlton Heston.
And her fiance is like,
I'm contractually obligated to be attracted to you.
Yeah, and her fiance is standing there like, huh? So then Charlton Heston and Nova get on the horse and they just ride like a little ways down the beach, like not even very far. And like Dr. Zayas has basically had this conversation with them of like, you're not gonna like what you find. He sort of knows that this stuff exists and is trying to keep it secret. They mosey on down the beach, really not very far, like not far. And they see something in the distance, and Charlton Heston gets off the horse, and he is clearly in a state of shock. And
he's kind of annoyed.
He's kind of annoyed, and he sort of like kneels down in the surf and pounds the ground with his fist, pounds it, screaming, "You maniacs! You blew it up! You blew it up!" And
you blew it all to hell.
You blew it all to hell. And is that where he says, "Damn you all to hell"? Because
no, that's what it is. Yeah, you blew it up.
You blew it up. Damn you all to hell.
God damn you all to hell.
And the camera pans up, and you see about 3/4 of the way buried in the sand, or possibly just broken off, is the head and torch of the Statue of Liberty. It was Earth all along.
Yep. This was in Rod Serling's original screenplay, by the way.
Yeah.
This was one of the things that they did keep throughout the whole thing.
That doesn't surprise me because it's very Twilight Zone.
Well, that's actually a nice little segue.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess maybe I should ask, did you enjoy this movie?
Yeah, it was fun.
It's fun, right?
Yeah, it's fun.
It's fun. It turned out someone had done a cut of this. I found out about it through some like movie YouTube show talking about like fan edits. Someone had made a fan edit of the movie. They cut it into a Twilight Zone episode.
We watched it.
Yeah, they cut it down to like 25 minutes in black and white. They found like Rod Serling voiceovers from the Twilight Zone that fit the beginning and end of the story, which is kind of amazing. And you know what?
It was okay.
It was okay. Like part of it works really, really well. Overall, I don't think the story really cuts down to 25 minutes that well, but it was pretty fun.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really neat thing to do. But yeah, it's a fun movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like the basic thing to say about it is it is so much more Hollywood. It is so much more American than the book. It's like every single thing, every time in the book something is easy, all you have to do is say, okay, well, it's really easy because he talks his way out of it and they just give him whatever he wants. Here's what we'll do. He doesn't do that. He doesn't talk his way out of it. He needs to hit someone and knock them out in order for him to escape under cover of darkness. That's what I'll do.
Yeah.
That's all I'll do.
Yeah.
So but it's basically the same story at that point.
Yeah.
Except for that.
Yeah.
They made so many sequels to this. Can I please take you through a timeline of these sequels?
Let's do it.
Again, I was obsessed with these when I was a kid. I don't know why I was obsessed with such depressing movies.
Yeah, and I haven't seen any of these. You've just been saying to me for 2 weeks. I can't wait to tell you about all the sequels live on the air.
Okay, 1970, 2 years later, Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Right after this event, Taylor gets sucked beneath the planet, but Nova stays up on the surface. Then a second ship crashes searching for Taylor and his crew. Brent is the only survivor and assumes it's another planet. He also thinks it's another planet. He finds Nova and he sees that she's got Taylor's dog tags and he's like, we came looking for Taylor. Where is he? But she can't talk. He and Nova go to Ape City and he finds Cornelius and Zira. They go underground with them because they're like another human, and Brent discovers the twist because he finds like the subway station from Queens.
Yeah.
You know?
All the hell, et cetera, et cetera.
Then they find St. Patrick's Cathedral and they find a group of telepathic humans who worship a nuclear bomb. Brent and Taylor are forced to fight because Taylor's there and these guys are telepathic, so they make them fight, but they break free and they fight back. There's a giant battle because all the apes are marching on the underground city. It's a whole thing. Jesus Christ. Nova dies.
Oh, God.
Just wait. Taylor's shot. Brent is killed. And while Zaius and like the gorilla commander are down there, Taylor triggers the bomb. Style.
You blew it up? You blew it up?
Well, then he blows it up.
Okay.
He triggers the bomb and the bomb goes off. And also, this bomb wasn't just any nuclear bomb. This was a doomsday bomb that had the power to destroy the planet.
Okay.
Taylor and Brent recognize this. And then this is like burned into my brain because I was like a kid watching this and I was watching fun movies up until this point. I was watching like Return of the Jedi. And the last line of this movie is in voiceover. In one of the countless billions of galaxies in the universe lies a medium-sized star, and one of its satellite, a green and insignificant planet, is now dead.
Jesus.
And that's how the second movie in the series ends, with the utter destruction of the planet
I
Earth.
assume in this movie Taylor is not played by Charlton Heston.
No, he is.
Oh, he is.
This was 2 years later.
Oh, okay, fine.
It's like a glorified cameo.
All right,
He's
all
like
right.
a little bit at the beginning, and then he has this scene
we're
with
gonna
Brent.
talk about a glorified cameo from Charlton Heston in a minute.
know.
All right, keep
But
going.
Brent is the main character. 1 year later, escape from the planet of the apes. Cornelius, Zira, and another character, Dr. Milo, salvage Taylor's ship, and they fly into space, and the destruction of Earth sends them back through a time warp to 1973.
Oh, God.
They are captured, but they speak and they become celebrities.
Oh,
but
my
then
God.
then they become captive.
Yeah.
Dr. Milo is killed. Zira gets pregnant. Cornelius gets her pregnant. Cornelius and Zira escape. They have human scientists that are helping them and everything. They find a circus run by Ricardo Montalban, and Zira has her baby.
Does he have a shirt? Does he have a shirt on?
Yeah, my understanding, from what I remember, he does have his shirt on the entire time.
That's a shame.
There's also a gorilla at the circus who has a baby at exactly the same time.
Okay.
This becomes important. They then need to hide out in a shipyard because the circus is being searched. They need to hide out until the search is done so they can get back to the circus, and they're going to stay with Ricardo Montalban. He's like, I'm cool, and you're going to stay with me. Then there's a giant, the military arrives. There's a giant shootout. Everybody dies. Cornelius gets shot. Zira gets shot. She throws her baby into the ocean. It is horrible and depressing, and the scientists have to watch this happen. But turns out they switched babies. This was the gorilla baby she threw into the ocean. So their baby Milo, is back at the circus with Ricardo Montalban and its gorilla mom, and it says mama. Or it says something. I can't remember what it says, but it talks. That's the important thing.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I have a vague memory somewhere, something talking about like Zira getting drunk while she's pregnant. Does that happen in this movie?
That does. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Is she really likes champagne?
Okay.
Why? Where did you get that from?
I don't know. Some weird thing floating across the transom of my mind. Like someone was like, it's terrible that there's this scene where Zira's drunk while she's pregnant.
Yeah, no, that totally happens in this.
Okay.
1 year later, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. It is now 1991, the far future. In 1983, we find out the movie comes out in 1972. It is set in 1991, but in a flashback, we find out that in 1983, a space-borne disease wiped out all cats and dogs off the planet.
Oh no.
So, what became the new pet?
Humans, apes. Wait, I forget who's in charge now.
Humans are in charge.
Humans are in charge, so apes, I suppose.
Apes become the pets, which makes no sense whatsoever. We have rabbits and guinea pigs and birds. We have all kinds of different things.
Snakes,
But apparently,
bunnies.
Chimpanzees,
Or no
gorillas,
pets. Like,
and
you could do-
orangutans become all of the pets.
You could do no pets.
Baby Milo is now Caesar.
Oh no.
That is his name. His name is Caesar. Guess who plays Caesar?
Roddy McDowell.
It's Roddy McDowell. Apes are now pets everywhere. He leads an uprising, and the Planet of the Apes is born. It's not really worth getting into how the detail of the plot at that point.
Let's not. Say we did.
1973, 1 year later, Battle for the Planet of the Apes.
my
This is
God.
like 5 movies in 5 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It is bookended by an orangutan, the quote-unquote the lawgiver, in the year 2670. But the whole thing is a flashback to the early 21st century, and it's basically like Caesar is like a chimpanzee, but there's a gorilla who's smart, and the two of them are fighting, and like Caesar thinks that the humans and the apes can live in peace, and the gorilla thinks that the apes have to subjugate the humans, but they have a big fight, and the gorilla dies, and there might be hope that humans and apes can live together in peace. But clearly that's not what happens at all.
Yeah.
1 year later, they decide to make a TV show. We watched the first episode of Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, and by that point we realized it was not really what we would consider an adaptation.
Yeah,
It's just
I
more of a
thought
sequel.
it was like that, but it kind of does refer to the events of the movie happening, but also like Zaius and Cornelius are characters, but they're different characters.
Yeah, but they refer to something happening like 10 years ago that like a human came down to the planet, but
Yeah.
like it's maybe something slightly different than Taylor. It doesn't bear thinking about.
I mean, I think there's only 2 things that are important to say about this. Basically, the idea behind the show is that the 2 humans that land befriend Roddy McDowell, and he gets ostracized, so the rest of the show is just them traveling through the planet helping people.
Yeah.
Because that's what a show was in 1974. The other thing about the show that I just wanted to throw in, like, it's not really hard sci-fi. There's a question of how they made it to a different planet and how all this time passed. Well, they find out that it is Earth, and one of the astronauts says, "What happened?" And the other astronaut goes, "It just happened. We don't know." Like, hard sci-fi, this is not.
Yeah. Can we build a computer? Maybe.
That's basically it.
Yeah.
The other thing about it, too, is that we talk about how the humans get more and more advanced. In this one, the humans, they're not pets. They're not animals. It's just a class system.
Yeah.
The humans can talk and wear clothes. And
Yeah, they
they're
land
just-
on the planet, and this old guy's like, "Hey, you probably should hide. There's apes.
Yeah.
They don't like us."
It's not, which kind of, the whole idea of, oh, well, what if we were the animals in the zoo? That's gone
It's
at this
gone.
point. That's
Yeah.
totally gone.
Yeah, it also stars James Naughton, who apparently graduated from the Yale School of Drama in order to say, "Are the apes in control of the planet?" And I thought that was funny
He
and
sold-
ironic.
He sold the line.
Can I just sidebar again really quickly?
Sure.
I had to watch for work a required harassment training video, and imagine my surprise, shock, and delight to find that it starred someone that I went to grad school with, that I happen to know has an MFA in acting from Columbia University. 10 years on, starring in a harassment training video that I had to watch as part of my job.
I was glad I was in the house when that happened.
It was amazing.
I heard your excitement from the other room.
Well,
It
because I was
fantastic.
like, I think I do. And I pulled up his IMDb page, and I was like, you were like, this is clearly the same person.
Yeah.
I actually recognized his voice.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was amazing.
Yep. Anyway,
Yes.
back to 1975. 1 year later, Return to the Planet of the Apes is a cartoon that gets released. It's just about more astronauts that land on the planet. But yeah, we got to move on. There's like 2 more big things. We already talked about A Fish Called Selma, episode 719 of The Simpsons,
Oh
which
my
aired
God.
March 24th, 1996.
I mean,
written by Jack Barth, directed by Mark Kirkland.
the relevant portion is only about 2.5 minutes long. So I would just encourage anyone to like pull it up on YouTube and watch it, because it is amazing.
It's-
It's from when The Simpsons were perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a great episode. Dr. Zaius is great.
Whoa, Dr. Zaius.
Yeah. Did you know that it was Amadeus?
No, I didn't really think about it. Can I play the piano anymore? Of course you can. Well, I couldn't before. Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius.
It's
Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius.
It's so good.
It's so good.
so good, and it's just this perfect encapsulation of everything that made the movie great. But then years go by, and there's finally another movie. I want to talk through this development for a moment, if I may.
You may.
This was in development hell for years. It was almost Return to the Planet of the Apes in the late 80s. Basically, Gladiator with gorillas. So it's like going to be a human crashes and like has to fight their way up through the ranks. It was going to be written and directed by a filmmaker named Adam Rifkin. This is his quote. I can't accurately describe in words the utter euphoria I felt knowing that I, Adam Rifkin, was going to be resurrecting the Planet of the Apes. It all seemed too good to be true. I soon found out that it was.
Oh,
Which
Adam
is
Rifkin.
Heck of a quote. It pretty amazing to hear about because like it essentially got scuttled right before it went into pre-production because as the thing that happens with studios is new leadership takes over
Yeah.
and they have a different vision than the previous leadership. So like some things just don't get made because it needed the right people to be in charge.
As we all know from William Goldman's book, Adventures in the Screen Trade.
Yes. But here's like two interesting things about it. In the late 80s, the makeup was going to be done by this fantastic makeup artist named Rick Baker, who just did really amazing work. This is not the first time Rick Baker has come up on the show. He did the gorilla effects for the 70s King Kong, the Dino De Laurentiis King Kong.
Of course he did.
And he was always like unhappy that he couldn't really do the gorilla effects he really wanted to do for that.
Oh, bless him.
So he just kept coming back to gorillas. So this was almost a Rick Baker movie, which is a shame. He never got to do Planet of the Apes. Also, Danny Elfman was going to score it. He literally hired to do the score. My boy Danny Elfman, and it didn't happen, which is a shame that Danny Elfman would never get to score Planet of the Apes. Then later, Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh pitched their own idea of like an ape renaissance, like the Planet of the Apes in a Renaissance period.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
Yeah.
Then in 1993, Oliver Stone was hired to produce and write and maybe direct. On the storyline, Stone explained in December of 1993, it has the discovery of cryogenically frozen Vedic apes who hold the secret numeric codes to the Bible that foretold the end of civilizations. It deals with past versus the future. My concept is that there's a code inscribed in the Bible that predicts all historical events. The apes were there at the beginning and figured it all out.
I hate that.
It was called Return of the Apes, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. Literally signed on. Philip Noyce was going to direct it. Do you remember that name?
No.
Did The Giver? Yeah,
it was really
the
bad.
new one.
It
yeah,
was really
but
bad.
He left this because this obviously didn't happen. He jumped off of this to do The Saint, which is a really fun movie that I enjoy a lot. Here's some filmmakers that were attached as time went on. Talked about Chris Columbus was going to direct it. Roland Emmerich was going to do it. James Cameron, Michael Bay. All of these people were going to be attached to it. And then finally, in like 99 or 2000, Tim Burton gets attached to it. And we get 2001's Planet of the Apes, directed by Tim Burton, produced by Richard D. Zanuck, who produced the original, written by William Broyles Jr., Lawrence Connor, and Mark Rosenthal, music by Danny Elfman.
Oh, my goodness.
Makeup by Rick Baker.
What a return.
I'll just throw it out there. I'm not going to say it's the only good part of the movie, but I will say the best part of the movie is the makeup. I think the makeup is amazing.
The makeup is okay.
The makeup is incredible.
It's better than the 68 version.
Oh, well, yeah, it's much better. Sorry, I went on at length. I saw this film in the theater. I hadn't seen it since the theater. It held up exactly as well as I thought it would.
Which was not.
What did you think of 2001's Planet of the Apes starring Mark Wahlberg?
It's funny because I didn't quite know what to expect. And I was sort of hoping either for something enjoyably dumb or like so bad as to be, really fun.
Yeah.
And it was sort of neither of those things. It was sort of frustratingly dumb and not quite bad enough just to be fun. It was just good enough that you were actually kind of taking it seriously and contending with some of the ideas it was putting forward, but it wasn't doing a good job.
You did engage with it.
You engaged with it, but like on a frustration sort of level, I think I would say. You watch a really dumb movie and you sort of give up on like picking holes in the plot because you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna like surrender myself to this.
Sure.
This was not that. This was trying to create a narrative that made sense, and it was, I thought, failing. So then you're picking holes in the plot, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And it just like there were just a couple moments that were like laugh out loud funny, like the part where he does crash land and his ship like both sinks in the ocean and catches on fire, like as if to say he is not going back.
No.
Like just shut that door right away. The little like the framing device where like he's an astronaut and there's a monkey, and then he goes off into space. A chimpanzee, and then the monkey goes off. The chimpanzee goes off into space.
Can I stop you?
Yeah.
Because not only are you continually calling the ape a monkey, I feel like you're skipping some things.
Okay.
So just to make it clear,
Yeah.
the big thing that's different is there is a giant space station that is run by the Air Force that is in space, and it's observing like
A
storm in space
Right,
at this point. And there are a lot of pilots on the space station, but there are also a lot of apes
Yes.
that they have trained
That
and
they've
genetically modified
Yes.
to be smarter. And so he has his ape that he loves.
Prometheus,
Poseidon?
Perseus,
Perseus?
Proteus,
Pericles?
Pericles.
Is it Pericles?
It's Pericles.
Okay, cool. We got there.
We got there in the end.
That's essential. I bet that's exactly the conversation that happened in the writer's room
When
at the
they were
time for what
naming
they
the
were
ape, yeah.
naming him. Something with a P.
Persimmon.
Yeah, and Mark Wahlberg does play Captain Leo
Excuse
Davidson.
me, Marky Mark.
Marky Mark. And it's only Marky Mark. For some reason, the Funky Bunch did not make an appearance.
They didn't get cast.
What happens is there is a storm in space, and all of the guys in charge say, we must explore it, but we're going to do it the normal way, by the book. So we're sending the chimpanzee first. And he goes, no, just let me do my job. Let me do my job. Let me fly into the time warp. I know how to do this.
And the
I fly
chimpanzee's like,
spaceships."
"Rrr."
And the chimpanzee's like, "Rrr." And so the chimpanzee flies in, gets sucked into it, and they go, well, we shouldn't go in. But suddenly Marky Mark's in his spaceship, and he's flying into the time warp, and he says these two lines in a row: I'm going to get my chimp, which would be one, like badass line. And then immediately after he says, never send a monkey to do a man's job.
Good.
Which is weird because he loves his chimpanzee.
He loves his chimpanzee, and I think like part of the thing, like now that I sort of have the luxury of time to reflect on this, is like I think he knows that Pericles is not very good at his job, and he's sort of trying to shield him and protect him because he loves him. Because like who knows what would happen to these apes if like the scientists ever found out they weren't very good at doing their jobs. Like,
I mean, how much does he love him? Because what happens at the end?
he's like
He leaves him.
He leaves him. Well, he wants to stay, I guess.
Does he?
I don't know.
He doesn't know what Pericles
He doesn't
wants.
know. He
Is
can't
it
speak.
Pericles?
He's just a regular
Are you
chimp.
100% sure that it's Pericles?
Pericles.
Okay.
I think it's Pericles.
We're gonna keep calling him Pericles.
Pericles. I don't think it's offensive, so we'll just keep calling him that.
But anyway, sorry, I skipped ahead there. But to go back
Yeah.
to it, like, yes, so he goes through the time warp and then he crash lands on this planet. And
Yeah.
right after he crash lands, how long does it take in his time before he interacts with a whole bunch of humans?
Oh, literally immediately, because he's like being. So in this version, it's not that they're an inferior species like that are kept in zoos and studied. It's that, oh no, these are our slaves. We own them. We understand they're sentient human creatures and like have like thoughts, and they can speak just fine.
Yeah.
We understand all that, but we own them. They are slaves. I'm not even going to call it a slavery metaphor. It is, they're just, in 2001, I guess Tim Burton thought that he had something important to say about slavery.
So I feel like, you said in the last episode, it's hard. It's kind of dangerous to ascribe intentionality
Yes,
to
I
like a
did say that.
director.
I did say that.
One of the things that I think we have to be really careful about with this is the way we ascribe blame or responsibility for these ideas. One of the one thing that was so consistent through all of the reading that I did about this movie, it was incredibly rushed.
Yeah.
Like, he was hired not long before the movie was supposed to come out. They had a deadline. They had pre-production was rushed. Production was rushed. Post-production was rushed. I don't know that I feel comfortable jumping in and saying, this is what Tim Burton wanted. This is not what Tim Burton wanted. I bet this is actually my feeling about this. There's a lot of stuff in the movie that I feel a little more comfortable saying was Tim Burton's weird thing, like the weird sexuality and animalistic nature of the gorillas. I think that was a Tim Burton thing.
Yeah.
The
You think Tim Burton was
slavery
kind of
metaphor
hot for the gorillas?
I mean, I think for a fact.
For
First
a particular gorilla.
Two of them, because he casts like. Are we getting into this right now?
I guess.
Let's table that for 1 second. What I was gonna say is, if there's a lot of stuff in this movie about enslaved people,
Yeah.
I don't have any evidence that this was anything that was important to Tim Burton.
Yeah.
And it's not really shown up in any of his other work.
Yeah.
I bet it was just something
What
that
about
was
the
in the
Oompa
script.
Loompas?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yes. I mean,
Maybe.
again, that was sort of directly, you can't really do Willy Wonka without the Oompa Loompas.
Yeah. But again, something like that, I don't think his version really leaned into that at all.
No, you're right.
I don't think the concept of talking about slavery is something that's important to Tim Burton. So this idea that he's like standing in front of Michael Clark Duncan, who's done up like a gorilla, and explaining to him, no, I need you to understand. I know you don't. I know you probably don't get it, actor, but like this is a really important story we're telling about slavery.
Yeah.
It's funny to think that might have happened, but I doubt it happened.
Well, no, there was also like I was like there was one of the human actors was what else was he in that we had seen? The black actor?
Oh, he was in King Kong.
He was in King Kong.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's the one that gets killed in the jungle for poor Billy Elliot to mourn over.
Yeah. The Peter Jackson King Kong.
Peter Jackson King Kong. And I was like, I'm having a hard time envisioning Tim Burton like looking this guy in the eye and going like, here, I want to talk to you. It's a metaphor. You understand? Like it's a metaphor. It's about slavery. And this guy going like, yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah. I doubt that happened.
Yeah.
Like the stories I hear about Tim Burton is that like he's not like a super thoughtful director. Like he's not having deep conversations on set.
Yeah.
Like I think he's got his thing he wants to do and he tells people where to go and where to run and he figures it out on the day and then it's done.
Yeah.
And he likes his weird stuff.
Yeah.
So I said I was going to table something. We might as well talk about it right now. There's so much to unpack with this one thing. First of all, at the time, he was engaged to a woman named Lisa Marie.
Yeah.
She was in a bunch of his movies. If you have ever seen Ed Wood, she played Vampira in the movie. She plays one of the ape ladies in the movie. She plays the ape lady that's doing the sexy dance
She does do a sexy dance.
And then she like jumps up on the chandelier when all the humans come running through.
Yeah.
That was his active fiance at the time.
Yeah.
But the main ape lady is a character named, let me double check my notes.
I hate this. I hate everything about what you're about to say.
Her name is Ari.
Oh, God.
I'm so sorry. She's played by Helena Bonham Carter. Now, Helena Bonham Carter hasn't really come up on the show very much. She came up when we did Frankenstein. Because like when she was in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein that Kenneth Branagh was directing, the thing that was notable to us is that he met her while they were doing it, and he ended up cheating on Emma Thompson, who he was with.
Yes.
And then ended up being in a long relationship with Helena Bonham Carter.
Yes.
In this movie, Tim Burton meets Helena Bonham Carter, casts her as a sexy ape, and then ends up leaving Lisa Marie to be with Helena Bonham Carter.
It makes me... I don't want to cast aspersions on Helena Bonham Carter if, like, you're sort of in a vulnerable position, as a woman actor.
Yeah.
With, like, a male director. He's got all the power. So I don't want to say, like, this says something about Helena Bonham Carter's morals, that this happened twice, because I would maybe cast more blame on the directors that couldn't keep it in their pants. But it does seem strange that the same situation happened 2 times with two different people.
Can I be honest about my big takeaway from it?
Yeah.
My big takeaway is that apparently Helen Bonham Carter is amazing.
Like as a person?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she is.
Like all I get from these stories is that she's easy to fall in love with.
Yeah, I mean, she married Tim Burton and they had like 2 kids together, so it's not like this was like a passing fancy.
No, and this is only it's only 2 times.
Yeah,
it's not like
only 2 times.
Yeah, this wasn't like this wasn't like a thing that happened
that we know.
And
of.
I understand that like 1 point is only 1 point, but 2 points makes a line. But
Yeah.
like only 2 points does make a short line.
Again, like
I just think it's notable and funny.
Before the internet, right? Like, where did you ever meet people? Like, you met people at work, right? And if you're an actor, how do you meet people at work? It's other people that work in the movie. So, like, again, like, I would probably be very remiss to say it says anything negative about Helena Bonham Carter that this exact same scenario happened twice.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting fact.
I merely think it's notable, which is why I noted it.
Yes.
But she does get cast as a pretty sexy ape. Like, I'm not saying I find her sexy. This isn't a subjective thing.
Yeah.
This is more of an objective thing.
Yeah.
Where, like, she's just very pretty. She's still super unsettling because she is a chimpanzee.
Her face, the way that they do her face is her prosthetic is like a little more uncanny valley than some of the other apes. So like it does make her a very pretty ape, but in a strange way.
Like it kind of works. Like I said, I think all the makeup works in this, and I kind of love the way the ape faces behave and everything. Like I think she looks great, and I actually think Helena Bonham Carter showed up and she did exactly what was required
like,
of her.
This. I'm doing
like,
this.
She goes. It's an insane performance. It is an insane number of physical things that she has to do in this movie. It is absolutely crazy. As well as like react in an insane way to everything. They're a very skittish people. These apes.
Yeah, she just like screams everything that happens. Well, these apes are the humans are far more akin to what we would think of as humans, right? Like they
Yeah.
can talk, they have a society, they understand what's happening
Chris
to them.
Christopherson's there.
Chris Christopherson's there. There's a sexy lady, but the apes are a little more ape-like. Right?
Yeah.
So they're like a little closer together because the apes are like pride themselves on their society and they're so educated and this and that. But like if there's a loud noise, they start screeching. At one point I wrote down, yes, good old fashioned political debate. Like there's the scene where she's sort of the rebellious liberal daughter of this like congressman, I guess,
Yep.
essentially.
Well, he's in charge of the Senate.
Or a senator, yeah. He's
Right,
because
he's the one. Because Thade's the bad guy. Thade is Tim Roth.
Thade's the fucking worst.
He's the evil general who's our heavy in this movie. He says to the head of the Senate, all of these humans are such a problem. You need to declare martial law. And he looks at him and he just nods and puts his hand up as if to say, it's definitely Michael Scott walking into the office going, I declare martial law.
Well, if you
like
remember,
there has to be more of a process to it.
If you remember the sort of period of a couple months between like the election and the inauguration, like that's what everyone was afraid that Trump would do. Just like say, I declare martial law, and everyone going, that's not a thing, and I don't know what you think you mean by that, but like everyone was afraid of that happening. Whatever he thought that would be, and that was what this movie was like.
Yep.
So she's the sexy daughter, the young daughter, and she is like an abolitionist, right? She does not think that the humans should be enslaved, which is good. Despite the fact that she has enslaved humans working for her, we're led to understand that like it's only because like she treats them better than anybody else, so it's fine. Like she's like, look, my human made this garment for me, look how beautiful it is. Like how can you say that they're like not intelligent or they don't know what they're doing? And there's like human like servants working in this house where the senator lives, and like she buys this little kid, and it's really, really sad. Like they have to steal her back from this girl.
It's just, I've mentioned this before, this is a good idea in search of a good execution.
Yeah.
And this is a really poor execution of a good idea.
Yeah.
Because I don't really think they did understand the problems with what she was saying when they were making the movie.
Yeah.
The movie doesn't give me any indication that they understood it.
That it's just as problematic for this woman that quote owns enslaved people to be like they're just as smart as you or I, but like while still keeping them enslaved.
Yes.
Like it did remind me of some, sort of Civil War movies, that we've seen. You know, like that trope is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like we shouldn't have slaves, but like if we do have them, like obviously we'll treat them nicely. Like okay, well maybe don't have them.
All slaves should have the right to buy their own freedom.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. It's
Yes.
like, well, there's
that.
Let's maybe dig in a little bit more. Maybe we can come up with a different way of doing this. That
just like inherently, like they shouldn't have to do that perhaps at all.
I just feel like our show has been pretty consistent since the very beginning that buying and selling people is bad.
I think we mention it like literally once per episode.
Yep.
It is not okay and wrong and perhaps a hot take. I don't think it is.
This is the hottest of takes.
The hottest of takes.
It's so hot. We're so brave here at
So
Adapter
I
Parish.
know, like unpopular opinions.
Okay.
Perhaps owning people is wrong.
Can I say a thing about the movie?
Yes.
Something about this movie that is insane to me is just how small it feels. Like the planet feels small. Not just because there's almost nothing that's shot outdoors. All of it's shot on sets, like jungle sets.
Yeah.
But also, we only ever see this like one street and some of these apes. But there's all of this talk of like the Senate and the armies.
We never see that.
And because we never see the Senate, it just makes the movie feel even smaller.
Yeah. Like when Marky Mark is first captured, right? They put him in this like cart with all these other enslaved humans.
And he's like, "You gotta let me out. I'm a person.
I'm a person.
I can talk.
And
I'm not one of these people.
I can talk. And they drive him into this.
I can rap.
Can he?
Well, when he was Marky Mark.
And they drive him into this.
You
like,
tell Marky Mark he can't rap.
Do
you know what he would do to you?
Punch me.
Yes.
They drive him into this like enclosed area, and it's like, is this like the street? Like, is this the market? Like the public square? But it's like all underground or enclosed. Like it's not
on a
outdoors.
Set. No,
yeah,
it is outdoors. That's the thing.
Oh.
Like it is quote unquote outdoors.
Oh, it did not look outdoors.
No, but because it's a set, it doesn't feel like it's outdoors.
It looks like one of those buildings in Epcot that like you're supposed to feel like you're outdoors, but it's not actually outdoors. Like when you go in the Mexico Pavilion, like it's supposed to be this like market, but obviously you're inside.
I'm just saying, like, if I actually felt the way the movie is telling me to feel about what I'm seeing, I would tell you, oh, the whole thing's outdoors and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But like it doesn't feel that way at all. It just feels like a set.
I didn't even understand it was supposed to be outdoors. So the clunkiest of exposition, my favorite was when they're trying to escape. There's like a group of humans. They're all trying to go, and at this point, like the humans he never really has to stop and explain to the humans, like, look, I'm an astronaut. I came here on a spaceship. Like, for all they know, he is just like one of them. And even the girl asked him at one point, like, what tribe are you from? Like, I don't recognize you, but like, I know you're from like, obviously this planet.
By the way, the girl, this is Estella Warren, who like Hollywood was trying to make her a thing around this time.
She's not a very good actor.
She was a model. She's very pretty. One thing that I will say, I would say this is probably Tim Burton here. There is a lot of chemistry between Leo and Ari. There's like no chemistry between Marky Mark and Estella Warren whatsoever.
They mooch on each other at the end, but it sort of comes out of nowhere.
It comes out of nowhere, and it's following a very tender scene between him and Helena Bonham Carter. So like clearly the filmmakers are not invested in it, but they know that the script says they have to do it, so they do it, you know?
But like there's all this like exposition about how apes are and what they do that like obviously he would know already as being one of these humans. They're like, well, you know, apes are scared of water, so of course if we cross the water they can't follow us.
But they don't know he's not from there.
But they don't know he's not from there, so why would they tell him that? Like obviously that's something that he would know.
The writing of this movie is something I have a problem with. Do you have something else there?
No, go ahead.
Oh, do you have Gentlemen to Bed?
Gentlemen to Bed, for on the morrow we battle.
Yeah, it's who is it? Is it Michael Clark Duncan or is it Thade? Is it Tim Roth who's talking to the troops?
I think it's Thade, and he's like giving this like he's like this sort of Aragorn. By the way, there are shots in this movie that could be from like the Battle of Helm's Deep.
Yeah,
like it is very strange because
earlier.
But he does give this like stirring battlefield speech. Thade does, I believe. But it's like, okay, I'm going to give you this speech because we're all going to go to bed because tomorrow there's going to be a battle.
Wait, Thade does or Davidson does?
I don't know.
Well, there's multiple moments.
There's multiple moments. There's the human speech, but the monkey gives a speech too, I think.
He does. But I'm thinking of Davidson's speech. Like Mark Wahlberg's speech is garbage.
Yeah. He gives a really bad speech.
His entire speech trying to rally all these humans that have come from far and around. They've all come to where, shall I spoil the end?
Yeah.
Here's what happened on this planet. Remember, there is a time storm next to where his space station was. 3 ships went into the time storm. Persepolis' ship, Marky Mark's ship, and the U.S. Air Force Space Station. They all went in, but because it's a time warp, they all came out at different times. Right. The space station came out like 1,000 years before this.
Yeah.
So 1,000 years ago, the space station comes out, crash lands on the planet. 1,000 years later, Mark Wahlberg's ship finally exits the time storm and crash lands.
Yeah.
Then 3 days later, or like a day later, it's not even that long. It's like 24 hours, 48 hours later.
Little Pentateuch's ship
Papillon's ship enters the atmosphere. It's ridiculous timing because they have this big battle between the humans and the apes and everything.
He's found the remains
of the space station.
And it turns out that's the way that this society began 1,000 years ago, was they had these super chimps that took over and took over from the humans.
So all the humans that he sees, they're all descendants of his like fellow crew members.
Yeah.
And all of the apes he sees were descendants of the smart apes that they had on the ship.
Right.
Which, like, here's the deal. I kind of like that.
It's an interesting twist.
I think that I'm not even going to say it's smart or interesting. It's fun. It's fun and it kind of makes sense and I kind of like it. And I feel like this movie actually like overstays its welcome a little bit in terms of the twists because it has that twist and that's fine. That's kind of a fun twist. But then it has to introduce like 2 twists wrapped up in one after that, which we'll get to in a second.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing we find out is that, yes, they were all descended from all blah, 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 blah. But then all of the humans congregate where this ship crashed, and Marky Mark has to give this speech to everybody. And you would think this needs to be Bill Pullman in Independence Day level speeches.
This is Aragorn on the eve of battle.
Right? It should be huge. His speech is essentially, and I believe I've written down the entire speech here, and I'm going to do my reading of Captain Leo Davidson's speech to rally the human troops in 2001's Planet of the Apes. Come on, guys, we could do this. Come on, guys, we could. Other people have done big things. We can do this. We can do this. We can do this. That's the speech.
Yeah.
That's the entire speach. It was like garbage.
He literally at one point said, like, think about people that have done stuff. We could do that.
We could do stuff. It is absolute garbage. It is terrible. But there is like a big thing that has happened before this that we have glossed over. This movie is Tim Burton kept when he was doing interviews about it, and I remember this from when it came out. He kept talking about it's not a remake, it's a reimagining, which is a bullshit way to like spell remake differently.
Yeah,
you
because
know?
it's a remake.
It is a remake, and it does the thing that is so frustrating, which is it's for no one.
Yeah.
I don't understand who this choice is for, but it constantly references the original in ways that don't make sense. So, for example, when Leo first lands on the planet and they get captured, Michael Clark Duncan Gorilla looks down at him and goes, "Get your damn hands off! Get your hands off me, you damn dirty human." Okay, it's the thing he says from that other
says in the thing, the other movie,
It's
the famous line.
That's the thing he says. I know it. I hate that shit. It's awful. And then it gets even worse because Thade keeps talking about his father.
Oh God.
His father, who's not doing well,
Not
and we
doing
never
good.
see him. We never see him.
And then we do.
And then we finally see his father, by the way, is named, I believe, Zaius. I think it's uncredited, but I think his father's name is Zaius.
I hate it. Keep going.
Okay. Who is it?
It's
Charlton Heston in ape makeup. And he gets to do his big scenery chewing scene from
Damn
in
them
bed.
all to hell.
Damn them. And he gets to say the line. So it's like so many things compounded on top of it. Interesting little side note about this. I read a really interesting interview with Tim Roth later where he was talking about how he was super conflicted doing this because Tim Roth is a guy who, very close to my heart, is very, very let's just call him anti-NRA.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Obviously, gun rights are a very complicated thing, but I feel like if anyone's standing on the side going, maybe we have too many.
Again, hot take. Like, I think this podcast can come down on the side of anti-NRA.
Yeah. To have to be in a scene with Charlton Heston, he said it was really challenging. And if he knew that he was going to do the scene with Charlton Heston at the very beginning, he probably wouldn't have signed on. And we thought it would have been super funny because one of the things that happens is these apes don't have guns.
Yeah.
Very specifically, they don't have guns.
Yeah. And I think there could be a genuine good faith read of the moral of this movie, which is as long as you have a gun, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
Whether that is or is not the case, the thing that was really funny to us is that if they had used that to convince Charlton Heston to be in it, tell him, just so you know, the moral of this movie is guns help everything.
And he's like, great, sign me up.
But the idea that they could then turn around and make it like ridiculously anti-gun, because he's only in one scene.
And you floated that premise, and I turned to you and I was like, that's what they did to him in Ben-Hur.
Yeah, exactly. I just think it's a delightful idea, and I wish they could have done it.
Just as a side note, for anyone that doesn't get that reference, a story they told in the movie The Celluloid Closet, which is a great movie that I recommend anyone watch, is that apparently in Ben-Hur, they told the guy that was playing his friend, just so you know, you're in love with him. Like romantically, you are in love with him. So that's what he was playing, but they didn't tell Charlton Heston. They were just like, he's your friend. He's your good friend.
Yep. Good friends. You know the way guys are friends.
Like bros do.
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought that was really funny.
Anyway, I hate references like this to other things because I just don't understand what it's serving. It's not serving the story. All it's doing is distracting me from the fact that this is a story.
Yeah.
This is its own story, but it's not its own story. It's just this intertextual bullshit. With like intertextuality is a really cool concept and I think it's really interesting and other people have talked at length about it. But like I just want to go see this movie. I don't want to constantly have dumb reminders that feel out of place in the context of this movie. I would rather they just didn't use the lines because if the line doesn't fit, don't use it. It's totally fine.
Yeah. So you get to the end of all this and you're already annoyed with all this stuff that we've mentioned. And the big scene happens, and it turns out that Little Pentatonics is the originator of the Monkey Society, and everyone bows down to him as their golden god.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "This is great. I want to stay here." And Marky Mark is like, "Cool, I'm gonna leave you," and jumps back in the spaceship.
And he says, "Bye-bye, Placido."
Yeah, and flies.
I don't understand why he leaves him. It doesn't make any sense.
Why he leaves him. He loves him. He's his friend.
Something about, I know you're going to you're going to get to the end right now, but like one thing I want to say about just how much I hated Leo Davidson in this movie, this character, I don't think they knew what to do with this guy. He's like kind of into science, but also super ignorant and dumb at the same time. He's nothing.
Yeah.
The character is nothing.
Like, literally,
the
the whole-
character is just it's just 2 hours of Marky Mark kind of reacting to things, but not in a consistent way.
The whole reason he ended up on this planet in the first place was because he was going to go get his monkey, and his monkey came to him, and he left him there. I don't understand.
Doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. So he gets back in his spaceship, and he's like, I'm going, and he kisses Helena Bonham Carter goodbye on her monkey face,
And then he kisses Estella Warren, and like
on her non-monkey face.
like textually it's more passionate, but like subtextually
It
it's
was
clearly hollow and
Yeah.
empty. Not like the bond he has been clearly building with Ari this entire
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah. So he gets in the spaceship, he goes back through the wormhole, because obviously, like, if you go through it backwards, you go backwards in time. That's how these things
I
work.
don't know. I've seen Ferris Bueller, and I know that driving the car backwards doesn't make the odometer go down.
Yeah. So along those lines, he assumes that going backwards through the wormhole makes you go backwards
Because
in
he
time.
never watched Ferris Bueller.
And
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yes.
Because I know you're about to say that he's like gonna crash land
Yeah.
on Earth, and it's not Paris now; it's Washington.
Washington.
And he crash lands at the Lincoln Memorial, and then all of these, just like in the book. Reading the book was so much fun for me because suddenly I was like, did the 2001 Planet of the Apes actually hew closer to the book in a weird way than the original movie did?
In like 2 touch points.
Like,
2
for a little bit?
tangential touch points.
Because he lands and all these jeeps show up and out jump a whole bunch of apes.
Yeah.
Just like in the book.
Just like in the book. And he runs up the stairs to the Lincoln Memorial, and he's like,
Because what's the other thing because if it was only that, I would have been like, okay, it's like the book. It still doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
But you know what? It actually does make sense to me. And this is literally my thought process during this, because I never really thought about this when I saw it in the theater, but I'm thinking, if the ship crash landed and all of the sentient, like, advanced apes overtook all the humans, of course we were doing those exact same experiments on apes on Earth.
Yeah.
So of course the same thing would happen on Earth.
Sure.
Why wouldn't the same thing happen on
Because
Earth?
the
That
same
kind of
apes
makes
were
sense
there.
to me.
Yeah, like they were going to take over eventually.
But then what else happens?
He goes up the stairs to the Lincoln Memorial, and he looks up in the again, similar shot, to the Statue of Liberty reveal in the original movie. And we're like, it's going to be a monkey, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
Everyone in the theater in 2001 knew it was going to be an ape.
and
Apes are not monkeys.
pans up, and there it is. Lincoln has been replaced with General Thane.
No, you've mispronounced it.
Yeah.
Because in the context of this scene, it's General Thade?
Thade. I'm
No,
sorry.
Sorry. Thade?
Thade?
You have to say it like Thade?
Thade?
Wait, what?
We kind of, that's the end.
That's it.
That's the last shot of the
That's
movie.
it.
And we were like, wait, what?
When you say we, you mean you, because I've been sitting with this for 20 years.
How did Thade get back to Earth? Did he go in a spaceship? He was
'Cause-
there because he was there. He was like beaten,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like he was
He
fully
lost.
defeated. He's under the table, like crying, and he's lost at the end of this battle. So how did he get back to Earth?
He also like beat the shit out of Prometheus. He like threw him against a wall and
His
like
name is not Prometheus.
he was like he had to like he was we were really worried that he killed the chimp.
And the chimp was like bleeding and stuff. It was really sad.
It's so sad. Like really sad and effective.
because it's an actual chimp.
Yeah.
Like you feel really bad for it.
I mean, I don't. They're terrifying.
I mean, I don't think that they
in
should.
the context of the movie, I felt very bad for him.
I think that chimps should not have to be in movies. I don't think they have the capacity to consent to be actors.
I agree with that. It is also dangerous for the humans who are in the movies with the chimps.
Yes, that too.
We have technology. Like, if the new Planet of the Apes movies, which, by the way, we didn't even really talk about. I said I was going to mention it. Like, between 2011 and 2017, there was Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and War for the Planet of the Apes. I'm just going to admit this. I haven't seen them. They've been on my list for a really long time. I really want to see them. I've heard they're really good. And they just are like a reimagining of the whole, how did apes actually become rulers of the planet?
Yeah.
But the whole, like, someone in the future, it's been Earth all along. Like, that's not part of these movies at all.
Yeah. So anyway, come to the end of the movie.
I just want to mention them.
I don't know if there's anything you want to wrap up with.
No, that's it. This movie is this is to me the definition of a nothing movie. It's not a bad, terrible, fun bad movie. It's not that kind of thing. It just hangs there limp. Like it's not trying to do much, and it's failing at the few things that it's trying to do.
Yeah, with a couple of like interesting ideas thrown in there.
Couple interesting ideas. There's some fun people who are slumming it. It is no one's best work. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Is there anyone who is turning in the best work of their career?
Maybe the chimp.
Maybe. I don't know.
We don't know what else he was in.
I'm not sure.
All right.
All I'm saying is, like, I've seen Mark Wahlberg in better things. I've seen Tim Burton do better things. I've seen everybody do better stuff. This movie it exists because a studio wanted it to happen. Finally, they made it happen, and it wasn't good.
Yeah.
And it did okay, made some money, and they never made another one. And now they have these new ones that are better.
Maybe it's Stella Warren's best work.
It might be Estella Warren's best work.
Yeah.
Although...
definitely not Chris Christopherson's best work.
No, it's clearly not his best work. His best work was in A Star is Born with Barbra Streisand.
Obviously. All right. Should we do some quadrants?
I mean, this is going to be really quick. Do you think when they made this movie... Well, oh, no, I guess we got to go back to 68.
Yeah, obviously.
Do you think they cared about the source material?
No.
No,
I do not. I do not. It was so... no, I don't.
All right. Was it successful?
Sure.
Yes, of course it was. It's a super fun movie, and it's a classic for all time. 2001, do you think they cared about the original book?
I mean, it is interesting because clearly someone went back and read it. But like, no one cared. Like you said, this was in development hell forever. Like by the time it got to this point, like the book
had nothing to do with
this. The book
this.
had nothing to do with it.
Although it is weird in the credits at the very beginning, it does say based on a novel by Pierre Boulle.
Yeah, one of his two.
Which is the only time I've ever seen it written that way. Is very strange.
Very strange.
Was it successful?
No.
All right,
Obviously
and that
not.
brings us to the end.
Wait. There's one we didn't include.
What?
The Simpsons episode.
Oh. Yeah, do you think they care about the source material?
I think they care about the original movie Planet of the Apes.
So not the source material. No, they do not care.
Yes.
Was it successful?
Yes, absolutely.
In 3 minutes, maybe more successful than anything could possibly have been.
There it is.
It's great. Well, this has been Adapter Parish. If you'd like to find us online, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AdaptCast. You can join our groups on Facebook and Goodreads, and you can also find and follow me on Letterboxd. If you have anything to say that's longer than a tweet, you can always send an email to adapterparishcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the show, there are 3 great ways you can do it. First, tell a friend. Second, a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice would be greatly appreciated. Third, we are on Patreon. This show will always be free, but if you become a patron, you can get access to Adapter Parish Plus, our bonus show that releases every other week between episodes of this show, and our patron-only Slack community. It's been a lot of fun, and all the details are at patreon.com/adaptcast.
I love you, Dr. Zaius.
There it is. He can talk.
He can talk.
He can talk.
I can sing.